Inbound to Halliburton. They've still got plenty of time. 7 on the timer. Halliburton tracked off Bailey's 3, and he puts it in! And a chance at 4!
Of course, Steph Curry with his dad. The emotions just pouring out. It might be his 4th, but it means so much. All the sacrifice, all the work.
So the Celtics getting bounced from the NBA in-season tournament, to me, is the best thing that could have happened to this team. I really, really believe that. The Celtics historically are a team that's kind of played entitled. They act like good things should happen to them. They act like they've achieved a whole lot more than they actually have. So, by kind of getting embarrassed by, to me, a far inferior team on national television, I'm hoping will light a fire under them so they focus, they kind of clean up the mistakes, the turnovers. And the other thing is with this team, they definitely would have milked the IST championship like it was like Banner 18. I mean, think back to 2 years ago when they barely beat the Miami Heat to go to the NBA Finals. A game that they almost choked. Like a collapse borderline if Jimmy hits that 3, but they were acting after the game like it was a championship. That they've arrived. You know, Tatum's texting Kobe, and then he's posting it on Instagram saying, "I got you," and Marcus Smart, Jalen, and Tatum are doing interviews saying that everybody doubted them earlier in the year when they were 500, and they've arrived and they've done it all. And the Celtics treated beating the Heat and getting over the Eastern Conference hump literally like a championship. And so, to me, it was no surprise that they got embarrassed by the Golden State Warriors in the finals. And embarrassed is one good word, but maybe the better word is exposed. Exposed for being young and a little bit entitled. I mean, that's the team kind of that I saw against the Indiana Pacers. They get off to this lead. I mean, the Celtics were up 9 points to the Pacers at half, and then kind of just assumed that the other team would fold and had a third quarter meltdown and get to the fourth, and it's kind of a battle back and forth, and then they just turned it over and over again, and then collapsed at the end, and the Pacers ended up winning by like 10. I mean, that's the team that I saw. And the truth of the matter is well, the Celtics are 15-5 right now, and they got the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. I don't think that they've played particularly well in maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, the wins, they've blown a lot of leads, right? The Bucks is a perfect example. I mean, the whole game, they're up like 15, but collapse at the end. And if Damian Lillard makes that dunk, they might lose the game. And then they barely beat Philly, a team that didn't have their 2 best players, Embiid and Maxey, sit. And you let Pat Bev look like Luka Doncic, and the game was at home too. They were lucky that they pulled away at the end of the game, but they very well could have lost that. Plus a couple ugly losses like the Hornets. I know it was a Monday night on League Pass, but that can't happen either. And it was the game the Celtics just assumed they would win. And so, hate to say it, but the Celtics are a soft team right now. And it starts with their coach, Joe Mazzulla, the guy that never calls timeouts. I mean, the Celtics will enter the third quarter what feels like every game with a 14-point lead. And then other team goes on this run. And then Mazzulla graces us with a timeout when the Celtics might have a 1-point lead. And it starts to get really old. Plus the fact that Mazzulla ball doesn't really call for adjustments. It's just jacking threes because some data nerds told Mazzulla that's the way that you win a game. I mean, Pacer game, perfect example. First half, Tatum, Brown, White, they're going to the hoop. They're having an easy time of it because the Pacers blow at defense. But Mazzulla ball is jacking threes, and so the Celtics had a path to kind of easily win that game, but they went back to Missoula's way and, they were cold the whole game. And, the other thing about Missoula is he's kind of corny. I mean, he's basically like Danny Tanner from Full House with all these pep talks. I mean, I'll see Missoula in the locker room being, he's talking about brotherhood and loving everybody, and it reminds me of Danny Tanner consoling DJ or Stephanie after a bad school day. And I don't know if Missoula's the coach that can win the championship. I know he has that great record to start a career, but he also has a championship contending team. I mean, I think most coaches would be able to have some form of success. And then kind of going to the stars, it's, the bad habits that Tatum and Brown had last year have kind of bubbled as of late. I mean, the fourth quarter hero ball, the ISO, the bad shots, the bad passes, the turnovers. I mean, all of that's come back. What's the point of having Drew Holiday when you're not giving him the ball in the fourth quarter to settle things down? That's one of the things that he does best. I mean, Drew needs to be more involved in the offense. He's been rock solid defensively, first team All-NBA defense type, year so far, but they need to involve him a lot more offensively, and he needs to be getting more like 15 to 17 points a game and definitely holding the ball a lot more than he has lately. And then kind of looking at the bench, which I think gets a little exposed too, besides Sam Hauser, who I'll admit, has played well, and then you got Al Horford, who will be there once Kristaps is back, the rest of the bench is hot garbage. I mean, Luke Kornet contesting a shot is about as effective as James Harden going to a dietitian. I mean, he jumps in the air, and every single NBA center just seems to have their way with Kornet. Like, he can't be a backup center on a team that thinks they can win an NBA championship. So I'm trusting Brad Stevens that, he'll go get a real backup center so I don't have to see this guy that should be with the main Red Claws trying to cover some real NBA centers. And so in general, I'm hoping that the Pacer loss is kind of an easy way for the Celtics to learn a lesson that, they can't just expect other teams to fold. Like, teams won't do that. And I think the Celtics sometimes think that, they'll get a somewhat sizable lead and other team will give up. And the truth is, teams aren't going to give up because the Celtics are some incredible franchise with banners from when Dwight Eisenhower was president. So